I just want to say what a pleasure it is to be able to spend 2 days with all of you, and great appreciation to you, Umberto, and to the entire staff of BioPiles for bringing us all here to this wonderful workshop. I am going to speak in English. You know what my Spanish is like because you've heard it. My French is much better. I could understand everything she was saying. But I'm going to spend some time now basically doing setup for your session on development of the network. So I'm going to do more of I'm going to do a little bit of introductory work on, where am I going? Right there, got it. I'm going to do, I got it right there, yeah, see. You can interrupt me with questions if you would like. I'm going to do a little bit of background on AURP and my park very quickly, but I want to start with a story about why networking is important. You noticed in the description of my biography that I'm actually a lobbyist. My job, I'm a government affairs, I get paid to bring money to the university. I don't get paid to run the tech park. I run the tech park because I love it. But in 2001, my president turned to me and said, David, I have a great idea for the south end of our campus. The campus at that time was filled with old abandoned research buildings across the street from the worst public housing in North America. And he said to me, I think we should do a tech park. You run it. And I said, what's a tech park? Some of you may feel the same thing today, right? Some of you that are just starting. And I can tell you, 11 years later, I was elected the volunteer president of the Association of University Research Parks. And I also, in 2011, we opened our incubator, and by 2013, we now have, I think we have 27 companies in our park. We've invested $110 million. We have over 350 employees in the park. And I attribute our success and my own personal success to networking. To discovering the Association of University Research Parks. I went to my first meeting in 2004, and I have not missed a meeting since. And so, whether, as you think about in the next 3 hours, the development of a networking environment here and a program here in Mexico, remember that what you're talking about is you. This is about you. This is about strengthening your ability to work in an extremely complex position. If you think about the slides we've had today, the presentations we had yesterday, you think about all of the different responsibilities that the speakers have said you have to assume. It is a daunting experience. It's a very exciting experience, but it's a very daunting one. You have to understand real estate. You have to understand how to work with government regulatory agencies. You have to understand how to work with startups. You have to learn how to work with big companies. You have to learn how to work with the university. You have to learn how to work with intellectual property. It goes on and on. And that's why it's so important when you have the opportunity, as you have been presented here, or are going to be presented here today, to build a partnership, because your parks are growing up all across Mexico. And truth be told, if you look to the left and you look to the right, the people that will be the most effective in helping you be successful are the people that you're going to be looking at when you look each way. So with that, I'm going to talk a little bit now about how we have developed AURP into a very strong networking organization. Our main job, support innovation, commercialization, and economic competitiveness of our immediate areas, and ultimately our country. And I think Natalie mentioned this. One of the things that you're probably already finding out that makes the networking possible is that generally you are not competing with each other. You're building your own community, and the geographic difference is sufficient to create a lack of competition and allow you to collaborate and to network and to support each other. We at AURP make it very clear that we support the collaboration among universities, government, and business to build the innovation economy in our areas. And we need cutting-edge resources to do that, and our network provides those cutting-edge resources. AURP right now has about 200 members. We're about two-thirds, I think, the size of ISP. We are concentrated in North America, but we have members all over the world. But our focus is not, we don't call ourselves a global, we say we're an international organization. We invite people to join us from everywhere in the world, and Pitt is probably one of our, and Jaime Parada is on the board of AURP. So you're a member in Mexico. I'm not sure we have others. And we are very university focused, as I said before. Now, what did we do, and what does the picture look like to build this strong network of university research parks? Here's what I'm going to talk about. First of all, we are built on the knowledge of members. So everything that I learned basically about how to really run the park did not come from books, although I did use books from AURP and from the National Business Incubator Association, kind of how-to books to set up the structure. But how to run the park came from members that have been running parks for 20 years talking to me in meetings just like this and in networking sessions. Absolutely critical. So here are the 5 areas that we I think are critical to the improvement and the building of a network. One is to have an overall collaboration strategy that drives the network. Second is to have, core of that strategy is in-person events, just like what you're doing over these 2 days. Third is to create networking opportunities that go on throughout the year, whether they be in actual face-to-face meetings, online, telephone calls, etc. Fourth, build up online resources that you can turn to on a 24/7 basis to support your work. And fifth, and I heard a lot of conversation about this off and on, develop a public policy position. Use the strength of your members to affect and influence government both at the state and the federal level, and develop a strategy. In Mexico, this is how you deal with some of the issues that you raised earlier, is to have a coherent strategy, because you represent the entire country, and that's very important in dealing with politicians. All right, collaboration strategy. This is, now you're going to kind of get this is the soup that makes AURP run, the overall view. As I said before, we start with our members. If our members did not respond when the staff says, hey, we want to run a conference, would you please lead it, we would be out of business. So all of you, when you say, well, we're going to build a network, is not Humberto's network, it's collectively your network. And as you learn, it's just like Oscar sharing all that he did with Pitt and his experience. You start with people like Pitt, right? So we started with the Research Triangle Park. They really got our network going, and the University Science City in Pennsylvania, in Philadelphia. And then we said, okay, now that they did this 25 years ago, here's where we're going, and here's what we need to do working together. So out of the members' experience, we created partnerships among the parks to support each other. We created a strategy for relationship building, relationships that I have used over and over again, that I created in the meetings so that I could call someone, because I now knew who that individual was. I could rely on them to give me good information. And, of course, create opportunities for informal networking. The tools we use, pretty clear: programs, meetings, professional development sessions that precede each of the meetings, and, as I said before, the online support. So that's That's basically the overview of the strategy. Pretty simple. You know, everybody does this. You probably belong to many associations, but absolutely critical to have an implementation strategy in place around those ideas. So here's what we look like. We are 25 years old last year. We were started by volunteer directors. 15 of the 25 years, it was an all-volunteer organization where someone, the president's secretary, probably did all the work. Sound like Mariana, right? This is, you know, this is how it worked, and the president changed every year. And then in the late 90s, we suddenly realized we needed to get much more business-like about what we were doing. We were running our own conferences, you know, it was really getting to be a pain. So we hired a professional association management organization to run AURP for about 10 years. And that's when I joined. They were still running the organization. Our dues paid for the professional association to take care of running the conferences. Well, the board met in 2004 and 2005 and had created a new strategic vision for the organization, said we need to professionalize ourselves, we need to have a coherent strategy to raise enough money to have a real professional staff that belongs only to us. And at that time, we then contracted with an organization in Tucson, Arizona, to run AURP they're our in-house management team, and they run it to this day. There's 3 people on the staff. And we get our money to run this organization through dues. We charge $995 US for a regular member. If you want to give more money, you can give $2,000. So it's about half the price of ISP, the regular membership. But we encourage people to provide more resources. We get a lot of our money from the net proceeds of running our conferences. And then several years ago, we started to build a national or international sponsorship program. So we basically said to all the big contractors, the big developers, the big law firms that we're the clients of, we said, hey, how about joining us? So we have a bunch of organizations that are giving us $15,000 each year to be national sponsors. And we have a couple of other organizations giving us more than that. So we have a budget of about $700,000 a year now. A third comes from membership dues, a third comes from our programs, and a third comes from sponsorships. So we have a balanced base of funding, which is now, you know, that's gone from just a couple of $100,000 a year. AURP Canada, that we just met with, I just attended their annual meeting, they were the same way. They had almost nothing. And now, by developing sponsorships and partnerships with government, they have a dramatically increased budget and is allowing them a lot more flexibility. All that I talked about has basically been developed by a volunteer board of directors. I'm a volunteer for AURP. The staff responds to the volunteer board of directors and the leadership. And that board serves, each board member serves up to 3-year terms, and then they have to go off the board. The leadership changes every year. The president rotates every year. So you have to have a leadership change moving up there. And the really important thing about that is that we don't get stuck. We don't get too reliant on individuals who then take over the organization, which is not good for a volunteer organization. And the way we keep that senior leadership around is that we've established a senior advisory council. These members meet during our annual meeting every year, and then we're able to call upon them for support on more complex issues or looking forward or just getting input on what our organization should be doing. So it's worked very, very well. Okay, let's talk about some of the specifics now. In-person events. Our job of our staff and our board and each committee that runs these organizations is to create a world-class international conference every year that is our main meeting operation, just like ISP does. This one is going to be in Philadelphia in September 25th to 27th. We're going to be celebrating the 50th anniversary of the University Science Center. At those meetings, we do updates, We look at trends, we talk about politics, international politics, US politics, whatever. We create major networking opportunities, and we rotate those events across, mostly across the United States, although we held an event in Vancouver in 2011, or 2010, I believe. And we always have that event hosted by a park. It's a very important issue, and the park basically is required to raise about $110,000 in sponsorships for that honor to host the event. Professional development, as I said, precedes each of these, and in that professional development we address both the needs of our newest members and our most senior members. We always have a leadership event for senior members and something called Research Parks 101 to meet the needs of newest individuals whose parks may not even started yet. Here's the people that participated in Research Parks 101 actually getting their certificates. I hope we're going to get our certificates today, right? Networking, a very, very important component, as I mentioned. So, besides the international conference, we also run regional meetings. So we divide up the U.S. into 4 quadrants, and parks will host groups of just in those regional areas. We also have run something called bioparks off and on for the last 15 years, preceding the International Biotechnology Convention, focused explicitly on companies that are in the life sciences space. We will be running that in next spring, 2014, in San Diego in the morning of Monday. So those of you that are running bioparks may want to participate, and we're now talking about partnering with ISP on that particular event. We also run something called Spring Training, which is events specifically designed for senior park directors. It's a week-long workshop where the people come together and we run sessions where they'll be in 3-hour blocks. We'll have only one speaker and one theme, and this gives you the opportunity then as a senior member, someone that's been around for a long time, to actually work with your colleagues on during an extended period where you're not listening to some outside speaker, but literally collaborating, exchanging ideas, building on the success of each other. We also have extensive informal networking during that session as well. Another thing to do to just think about what we did last night. Use each of these events through group dinners, receptions, and informal networking opportunities by creating space in the program to talk to each other. And we often find this to be the most important part of our work. We also will have special roundtables where people will pick the theme they want to talk about and then join each other during lunches and breakfasts. And all of our new members get an orientation, and then they meet with board members at one of the breakfasts to get to know about the organization and to begin to build the relationships that are so critical to successful networking partnerships for your organization. Switching gears now to online resources. This is something that's critical. I know you're going to talk about developing a web presence. All of us, as you know, in this fast-paced world are constantly looking for information and support, so we have built a pretty significant website. We talk about connecting our members 24/7. We have this just shows some of the things. You can take a look at our website now, those of you who are online at AURP.net. We put innovation news on there, we put our major publications, we have on-demand webinars on occasionally. We also put do-it-yourself guides on there, and our big publications that are designed to influence public policy. But perhaps the most interesting portion of this is what we call our E-list for questions. And I've used this many times myself. Basically, any member can go to the website, type in a question that gets up, and then it gets immediately posted to all the members who then can respond. They can basically say, here's what I did. So we'll see, I'll see maybe 4, 5, 6 of these a month. And it's a wonderful thing that you get this kind of instant response that someone can actually make a policy decision on or answer a question of one of his or her board member based on what other parks have said. This is an example of all of our different components. This is our Twitter account, our Twitter feed right here. So people are talking back and forth. It gives us a chance to then bring together members around Twitter. We're also on Facebook, LinkedIn, etc. So that online presence has been a critical addition. One of our staff members is almost completely dedicated to keeping that website up. She also does the overall marketing for the association, but she spends a good amount of her time keeping that website alive. Let me now talk a little bit about public policy. This is our Power of Place from 2005. This is our key policy document of the Association of University Research Parks, based on a survey of all the parks in terms of how are you doing, what's your economic impact, how many members you have, etc. That is being updated right now and will be released at our annual meeting in September. And we have evolved here, looking both at the United States and Canada in terms of what should our role be. We actually helped design a legislation in the U.S. We monitor public policy. We bring public policy speakers. This is a great thing that you can do, is bring national leaders. You get a network together. You bring national leaders to come in and talk about what's going on in the nation. And of course, you expect they're going to say good things about what you do, and you can build support that way. We also have set up a number of things that create a voice for our members. We do a fly-in day where we bring all of all the members that want to into Washington for a hearing, public hearing, and then meetings with legislative leaders. Canada is spending this week in a major exercise to build national support for their parks. They released an economic impact study on Monday. They then set up meetings for the whole week with leaders in the national administration and in the legislature to basically say, here's what we found out in our economic impact study. They raised something like $400,000 over the last year for a combination of strategies led by the development of the economic development study. And in our case, I mentioned the Patel study. We also work with the National Academy of Sciences here on reports, and we just inked an agreement to run a joint workshop in Washington with the National Academy of Sciences on the impact of science, on how to measure the economic benefits of science parks. Well, let me conclude now with just gave you a lot of information in a short amount of time. Let me conclude with what I think are some of the most important things for you to consider as you move forward with the development of your network. Number one, your strength lies in your members' knowledge. It's in your willingness to share among each other. Just like what you were saying, right? Why don't we have time so we can, I got this electricity problem, can't we figure out a way collectively to deal with it? That's the kind of thing that comes out of building a strong network. And it all starts with a coherent, focused, and implementable collaboration strategy that includes events. It includes opportunities for networking, both directly or on the telephone or online. It includes a good support of an online database and publications, information to go to, and it should include a public policy strategy that allows the parks to grow together. And obviously this public policy strategy is going to be influenced by, where you are. So it's hard for AURP and ISP to actually run coherent strategies for the whole world. It's pretty difficult to do. So in our case, as I said before, we focused on the US and Canada. If we were to become a partner with you down the road, then maybe we would also see what could we do to give you ideas about how to influence the development of public policy in Mexico. And my final comment is that just like we helped Canada develop itself into a very strong and effective science park network of 27 parks, and the Quebec parks have been much more focused on ISP than the parks in the other provinces. But now they're kind of all working together on the national policy issues. that could be the same kind of thing we could do here, where the university-related parks in Mexico could be somewhat associated with AURP. Everyone could be part of ISP, and then we could work together to share the successes of our entities to build your network. So our board, I think, would be very excited about being able to work informally with you. We actually established a formal memorandum of understanding with the Canadians. We provided their back office operations for them. We actually collected the dues and then gave them the money, their dues. We took a little bit of money for administration and then gave them the rest of the money to run their own operation. I wouldn't be surprised if that changed now, that they took off on their own in the next year or two, because they've become so strong themselves. But we could certainly continue to maintain a strong affiliation. So that's something I would throw out there as a possible opportunity for you. And even if you choose to basically run it on your own, I think there's many ways that we can connect effectively across the border to support each other in the development of your network. So thank you all very much.